Hey guys, welcome. We're gonna get started. Hopefully we have everything set up and you guys can hear us and see the presentation. I'm Patrick Hankey and I'm here with a co-founder, Savitz. We founded a digital design and development firm. This is our first time giving a completely virtual workshop, so we're hoping it works out. Typically, we like to make these experiences as interactive as possible. And I know we're virtual today, but we're going to try to remain true to this. So what I'm asking you guys to do is to grab yourself something to write with, as well as a few sheets of paper. As you guys are going to do that, I'm going to kind of go through who we are, what we do, and what we will today. So, like I mentioned, we own a design and development firm called CanSpinach, which we started back in 2016. What's a little bit different about us is we focus on user-centered design to create meaningful digital experiences. This was done with the realization that a majority of companies we've worked with struggle with creating unique solutions that land with their target audiences. So for us, our process starts with a deep understanding of the people we're trying to serve, and we then use that information to create ideas and make innovative new products rooted in those users' actual needs. We have applied this methodology to help everyone from startups to Fortune 500s, optimizing processes, increasing user interaction, and releasing new products. Working with some awesome companies has some really exciting outputs that we'd love to highlight. The first of which is Toyota AR. So Toyota's agency of record was looking for ways to push the new Camry to millennial users. And through our research and empathy work, we learned a number of interesting things about millennials and their viewpoints on purchase. To summarize, pretty much they hated dealerships. They felt the sales process was super pushy and off-putting, and they felt like the whole process could be simplified through the implementation of technology. So this is what we ended up with them. We developed an AR app that allowed users to customize and view the new Camry in any environment. As the user was introduced to features, they were slowly led through a soft sales process that ended with an SMS conversation with local dealerships. This tool was used to successfully validate assumptions around their new target market. Another great example of how this process can turn into something pretty cool is our work with David Dobrik. For those of you who don't know, David is an influencer with roughly 14 million YouTube followers. He reached out to us because he was looking for ways to engage his audience outside of typical social platforms. So we performed a deep dive into who David is, as well as his users, and found something kind of unique. David was essentially taking photos on a disposable camera and putting them on Instagram. A little bit more research showed it was actually really difficult these days to acquire a disposable camera. So we ended up digitizing the experience. We created an app that looked like a disposable camera and forced users to wait until 9 a.m. the next day to view their photos. This experience actually brought the David lifestyle into something easily obtainable for his fans. The app ended up being #1 in the App Store for roughly a week, has amassed over 2 million downloads, and has seen over 20 million photos taken. Taking a user-centered approach is more important than ever. There's really no denying that COVID-19 is really reshaping how companies are doing business. Our collective embrace of going digital has increased our appreciation of great products, services, and experiences, and customers are moving towards digital at an unprecedented pace. They're hopping from one service to another with great frequency, and it's more important than ever that you understand needs and how to satisfy them. So that's what we are going to be doing today. We're going to be walking you guys through the process we take to cover insights that lead to creative products. So there are 5 main steps in this process: empathize, define, prototype, and test. But what's really important to note is that this process is not just about creative thinking. There's actually a really large focus on deductive reasoning and analytical. Kind of see that as we move through the process, be times when you're really focusing in, narrowing down, and trying to analyze to decide where you go next. And times when you're trying to generate ideas, and you're really flaring out, getting extremely creative. The key to this, and a lot of what is to separate the two. A lot of people try to do at the same time, and that doesn't work very well. For example, during brainstorming, sometimes you'll have people proposing and selecting ideas at the same time. Or someone might say something like, I don't really like that idea, and it ends up shifting the entire conversation. So remember, as we move through these 5 steps, there will be times when we're both using analytical and creative thinking. So this is where our first interactivity is going to come into play. Typically, we design something else. Due to the situation, and we felt it would be fitting for a warm-up exercise to design a better face mask. So I know this is probably seems like a lot and a lot kind of out of the blue. Might even be a little bit uncomfortable. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys roughly 4 minutes to just jump in and design a better face mask. So feel free to grab some paper and start sketching or writing down your ideas. And I'll let you know when time's up. Okay, we're roughly halfway through, so a couple more minutes here and we'll move on. Yeah, guys, something to note here as well. We're trying to make this interactive, so if anything's not very clear, feel free to drop whatever questions you have in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer those as we're moving through. Let's see here. About 1 minute left on this, and then we're going on. Catherine, I'm liking where your head's at with that. All right, so we're going to stop on that. The reason we do this is kind of to prove a point. So what we just did was a bit of a false start, but it's really the way we often work. Someone gives you a problem and you immediately start thinking of solutions. It could be because you just don't have time to talk to anyone, or you just right in. But what we're hopefully going to show you guys today is a bit of a longer process of how to design something for someone else. So the first step of that is empathy. So empathy is, if you guys don't know, when you can feel what a person is feeling, and when you can mirror their expressions, their opinions, and their hopes. So there are some rules to performing empathy work. They are deferred. So if someone is sharing their practice or what they do, you're not really there to judge them. You're simply there to learn, listen. It's always good to approach empathy work with a beginner's eye, curiosity, be optimistic, and finally, be respectful. So now comes the fun part and the real test to see if we can turn this interactive experience into a virtual platform. But we're going to look for a brave volunteer. The first person, if anyone would like to volunteer for this activity, please shoot your name or drop a message in the chat, and we'll kind of bring you into the main stage here, and we'll let you know what's going to happen next. And don't worry, guys, it's nothing bad. It's going to be pretty easy. Perfect. Let me bring you in here. All right, just sent you an invitation. That should work, I believe. Yeah, I'm not sure if you saw that, but if you click the audio and video button in the top right, I should be able to let you into the room. Oh. Huh. Okay, that's okay. We'll try that. Andrew, did you get a Gotcha. All right, guys, I will be right back. Okay. Jill, if you wouldn't mind, would you request that again? I'm not seeing. I think it's because I had to refresh. Or actually, hold on. I might be able to do it from here. Nope. Okay, cool.
Hey Jill, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
Doing well.
Good.
Do you want to quickly intro yourself to the group?
Oh, sure. My name's Jill Harrigan. I'm a business development representative at Navistone. We take retargeting offline by using direct mail.
Awesome. Well, thanks for volunteering.
Sure thing.
All right.
Yeah, sorry, I'm back. Good, we got that figured out. Okay,
Yeah.
First hurdle.
Right.
Okay, what we're gonna be doing today and for the rest of the session is working together to design Jill a better face mask.
Sweet.
So the first step in this process interview. So if you guys would you please start asking questions in the Jill and her face mask wearing activities when she does it, Andrew has a few prepared as well he can kind of use to kick off. But what I'm gonna do is ask that you guys please take notes on Jill's responses, because through each one of these modules, we're gonna build off of each other to end in a final result. So yeah, Andrew, I don't know when I started, and I'll jot stuff too to make sure we're just capturing things. But yeah, like I said, feel free to dump in the chat and I'll read them out as they pop.
Yeah, Jill, when do you typically wear your face mask, if at all?
I always wear a face mask when I go out shopping. So if I have to go to the grocery store or pick up anything, you know, at Home Depot, Lowe's, etc. Anytime I enter a building, I'm wearing a mask.
Cool. And is it comfortable?
No.
What do you know what it's made out of?
I have a couple different ones. One is cloth so that I can reuse them. And then I also have some disposable ones when needed.
Okay.
We got a question in. He asked, which visual style of face mask do you prefer? I'm not sure if that last answered that, but feel free to go ahead with that one.
Well, I never saw the clear one until Jonathan shared that. So I would say that one. That would be really awesome. So we could actually see each other's faces and read lips if you can't really hear because of the mask being in the way.
Awesome. Chris asked, how tight do you prefer the ear straps to be?
Tight.
Tight. Awesome. Okay. Scott says, do you wear glasses? If you do, with your mask, do they fog up?
Yes and yes. That is a big problem I have. My little workaround so far has been bringing them a little forward so that when I breathe, it kind of goes in between my face and my glasses. Because when I have them pushed back, they fog up like crazy.
Nice. All right. Kath says, how many hours a day or how much time do you typically wear your face mask for?
Luckily, I do work from home, so I don't have to do it every day. So when I go to the grocery store, I'd say on average, I have a mask on for about an hour to 2 hours.
Nice. All right. Oh, they're fine. Okay. Do you find it difficult or to breathe while wearing a mask?
Yes.
All right. How active is your lifestyle?
Very active.
All right. Do you wear? Okay, do you wear a reusable mask to the store, or are you wearing the other one you mentioned?
Yeah, it really depends. If I'm out of the cloth ones, then that's when I'll use the reusable ones. But if I have the option to wear my reusable ones, that's the one I go for.
Okay. Where do you keep reusable ones?
I keep some in my car in a baggie, and then I also keep some in my house. And that goes
Awesome.
for the reusable ones as well.
Perfect. Do you have any allergies?
Yes.
Do you wash or clean the reusable mask you have?
Yes, every time I use them, even if I only wear them for 5 minutes.
Cool. We have a couple, well, essentially a minute left if you guys have any last second questions. If not, we can kind of move into the next phase of this. Someone just, let's see, 30 seconds now. Time's running out. Oh, last one. Do you, the reusable masks have a filter in them?
I just bought one that you can put it in, but I haven't yet, but it is on my list of things to do.
Very cool. Okay, final question. How much would you spend on a new reusable mask?
I don't know, probably up to $20, depending on how wonderful it is.
Perfect. All right, so guys, we're gonna pause on that, but don't worry, there's gonna be more questions we can ask here because we are going to do or perform a second round of interviews. We do this because typically what happens is in the first set of interviews, you get a lot of information, but it's usually explicit reasons. So we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into interviewing. So we can start getting at the emotions underneath the decisions Jill's making. So the best way to do this is act like a child and ask why. We've all experienced this. You might be working on something and a kid will come up and say, "What are you doing?" And then they'll say, "Why are you doing that?" Or "Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?" Really, that's the best way to drill down and figure out what the emotions are behind these decisions. And we can kind of experiment here. Like it's our first time. So if you have any feel free to drop them in the chat. Another way we might, like before to kick it off and start asking questions, you guys can kind of get a feel of how it typically moves. But let's kick this off. We're gonna go once again, 3 minutes and we'll get hopefully some of the emotional responses behind these decisions you've made.
Yeah, so why do you wear your mask?
I wear my mask to keep myself safe and to keep others around me safe, just in case I or someone I meet has COVID.
Oh, also guys, sorry to interrupt, but once again, make sure you're taking notes because we're gonna in the next step. Sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, you're good. And why do you wash it after each use?
Well, because if I go in a place, even for a minute, and somebody got some of their particle on me, I wouldn't want to be putting that back on my face after I've left the store.
Cool. And why do you prefer the cloth masks over the disposable?
Because I want to be more sustainable and eco-friendly.
Cool. And have there been any other questions that come in?
Still
No.
time.
Oh no. Okay, so why would you only spend $20, or why that price range
Because
if you were to buy a new one?
Because I'm thinking I'll need several, especially if I'll be washing them in between. So that's why. I guess if I only needed one ever period and it was self-cleaning, shoot, I would spend a lot more money on that.
So we're getting some that come in. Why does the mask, do you feel called or go into that a little bit more?
I mean, I guess it's just like maybe the reusable mask, especially, it's kind of thick, right? So it's just, you have to work a little harder to get the breath in or the breath out and then in. And then with the reusable ones, they're a little easier to breathe, but yeah, I mean, there's still just something on your face as you're trying to breathe in your nose and out your mouth. So
for sure. let's see. How much time we got? Couple more minutes. I don't know if you had any. We had another. It says, "Has anyone you know had?"
Yes, a high school friend of mine and her mother both got it. I hadn't seen them since January, and they got it in March, so I'm good. However, that was pretty scary. They're both okay now.
Yeah.
And then my wife's coworker knows the first person in Maine who died of COVID. So yes, we know people.
Nice. So I have a question. So you mentioned it's really hurt your ears. Are there any other methods that you've like tried to prevent that?
No, I actually said I prefer the ear things being tight because then I feel more secure that it's not going to fall off.
Gotcha. Okay, I misheard.
No worries.
All right. Let me scroll back down, make sure nothing else came in. Oh, Andrew, would you mind flipping back to this? Okay, oh, you saw that. Cool. All right. So that was quick and dirty, but it kind of the idea of what we would be going through to kind of elicit those emotions like I mentioned before. But we're out of time on this section, so we're going to move forward into our next step, which is define. So remember when I showed you guys that flaring in and flaring out chart? What we just did was we were gathering information, so we were moving out like this. In the define stage, you're going to be taking that information and focusing it back in. So to talk about this, we love to show this photo. So I'm going to ask you guys a question once again. Drop your responses in the chat, or Jill, you can just shout them out. But what does this little girl need?
I don't see a picture. Maybe it's just because I'm with you in here.
Oh, gotcha. Well, I can kind of describe it to you. Standing on a chair, reaching up for a book. Okay, so Scott says she needs a ladder. She needs help reaching. That's a great one. But yeah, so pretty much we love to ask this question because a lot of times we like to reframe the way people approach needs. She needs a specific book, another great one. So guys now to as verb instead of noun. We like is because are more solutions. You know, she needs a book, she needs an adult. But if we can think of needs verbs, it can be a lot more generative. So instead of a ladder, you could say something like she needs to reach. Then the solution could be a ladder. It could be a pogo stick or I don't even know, a bionic arm or something like that. So if you can just focus on the needs and hold off on solutions, those needs generate solutions you wouldn't have come up with otherwise. So what you're trying to do now, needs that Jill has stated based off of the interviews we just did. So needs, to summarize here, they're human and emotional needs, capture the goal, the motivation of the person from whom you're trying to design, and they're verbs, not nouns. Now there is another part of this I want you guys to think about, and it's going to be a little bit tricky because we just met Jill and we really have to observe Jill, her mask, and the environment she's talked about. But the next thing is insights. So if verbs are, if needs are a verb, insights are the why response to that need. So we spent time with the little girl we just showed in the photo a couple slides back, would have realized that her parents were having a dinner party and her reaching has really nothing to do with the book at all. She's perched so precariously on that shelf because she needs their attention. That was an insight or an example of insight that we want to uncover, go really deep into our empathy work and observation in the mood or moment. So insights are the why response to the needs. You're going to need to apply your expertise to these inferences. A great example of this is the Henry Ford quote, you know, I would have asked people what they wanted. a faster horse, faster. But he had some insights that led him to the automobile. Insights give you an actionable direction to go in that will lead to really novel solutions. That we're going to be jotting down here is what we call a point of view statement. So each of you, off of the notes from the interview, what we're going to want to do is describe Jill a little bit, the things she's trying to do, which we can categorize as needs. Remember, use verbs if you can, and also list the ways she wants to feel. Those are your insights. So I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes here, 2 to 3 minutes, to kind of just jot things down in categories that are listed there on the screen. You don't have to do this since we're interviewing you.
Okay.
You get to escape. All right, I'm going to move on here. But feel free, if you guys want to keep jotting down things, you can keep writing as I'm talking. So a lot of people, when they're trying to design a new product, feature, or service, they think about a certain segment of the market. You design for the middle so you can reach a lot of people. But what should be is a focus on individuals and not focusing on the majority. The reason being is when you design for the most people possible, you end up making a lot of concessions along the way, designing something that has a lot of features because you want to appeal to a lot of people, but it ends up really appealing to no one. It's always important to focus on individuals you're designing. A great example of this is this product. For those of you who don't know, this is the OXO Good Grip potato peeler. And it has kind of an interesting backstory to how it got created. So the wife of the CEO of OXO had really bad arthritis. And one night, the CEO was preparing dinner and realized she was really struggling to the potato peelers that were available at the time. Those are those real skinny metal ones that are real hard to grip. So the next day he went into work and he challenged his company to create a better handle. And this is what they came up with. They came up with a peeler with this pushy handle to grab. And interesting is when they started user testing, they found out that users preferred no matter if they had arthritis or not. So by focusing on an extreme user, someone that had an extreme need in this case arthritis, those needs and were amplified to better suit the majority of the users. So when working on a product or service, you need to figure out who your extreme users are in the space. You know, this could be hardcore users of your product or people who don't use your product. A lot of time forgotten about, but if you can uncover, why they're not using your product, those needs can create better experience for existing. So what we're going to do now is focus on, we've come up with needs and insights, and I want you guys to craft what we call a point of view statement. This is your point of view on your user, become the driving force of what you're going to design. So the points of view statement follows there, the needs you've uncovered, and the insights that go along with those needs. So currently on it is an example of a team working on creating your school lunches, but this is their first craft. So they have teenagers need to eat healthy because certain nutrients are necessary for physical and cognitive health and development. So you guys think about the view. If you do it, it really sounds like it's coming from the mouth of a teenager. It's something you could come up with without actually interviewing anyone, or doing any on a granular, certain like the user. That's extremely broad. I would say no users exactly the same. So what they did was they went and took another stab at it. The user they switched to was not just, but a 9th grade girl in a new school. You know, there's something there. She's a 14-year-old girl in a tough new environment. Next was the need. So they changed theirs to feel socially accepted while eating healthy food. This was a deep need that was the not theirs. And it's not projected, and it came from understanding that had seen her in her environment. The final piece was insight to create a final point of view statement of a 9th grade girl in a new school needs to feel socially accepted while eating healthy food because a social risk is more dangerous than a health risk. This point of view statement has a lot more tension in it than a teenager that needs to eat healthy food. So this is kind of what we're showing in your guys. You want to have a specific user, need, some surprising. What I'd like you guys to do now is take a look at the list of needs and insights jotted down, describe Jill, and fill out this kind of style point of view. Who's your user, what they need, and what's the best insight, or the most interesting one you've come up with. Just to note here, you can only match a cool need and a cool insight that really have nothing to do with each other, be related. So go ahead and start with the view statement. Just saw the time, so we're gonna move very quickly through this. I am going to guys a minute here to jot down your findings, and we will. All right. Once again, feel free to keep writing or keep working on this, but to explain the next step we are moving into. So the next step is ideation or brainstorming. This is a really high energy activity. You really need to get the blood flowing. Unfortunately, today we're going to be doing brainstorming alone, which is a little weird, but still try to bring in some energy if you can. So remember that chart I keep showing, the focusing and flaring. Well, brainstorming is the height of your flare. So the more ideas you generate, the higher likelihood you are to coming up with a solution. So how do you do that? There are rules we like to implement in brainstorming activities. The first of which is defer judgment. And today this is going to be a little hard because you're doing this by yourself, but I want you guys to sit there and think, oh man, the first idea I come up with needs to be the best idea ever created. When we start this, I just want you to write down or jot down the first idea that pops in your head, because this will really kind of open the spigot and allow ideas to flow. So don't judge your ideas. Some other things to remember here are focus on one conversation at a time, be visual if you can, and stay on topic. And finally, encourage wild ideas. Anything can go. Now we are going to brainstorm around your problem statement. This is going to be the last piece, interactiveness. So, just to reiterate above, an example of, how do we make eating healthy food more of a social or less of a social risk? Eating healthy food is more of a social risk than health risk. How might we brainstorm ideas around making healthy food cool? What could the containers look like? How do we redesign the cafeteria to make healthier options more evident? I want you guys to try to come up with as many interesting ideas as you can to meet the needs of your problem statement. And I'm going to give you guys just a couple of minutes to do this, or sketch whatever pops in your head. And once again, come up with as many ideas as you can. This is going to be, let me check the time. Oh, we're going to give 2 minutes for this. Definitely not enough, but you guys can get through a couple ideas with that. And then if anyone wants to, we can share their ideas and get some feedback from Jill. Clear. I like it. All right. That may have been enough time for you guys to kind of generate an idea or two. If anyone wants to share their concepts and gather some feedback, we can patch in now that I know how this works. So if you would like to request in and I'll add you here. I know we just have a couple more minutes, but only a few more slides left in this process. So I'm just give a couple more seconds if anyone wants to jump in and get some feedback. If not, totally okay. Like I mentioned, this is definitely not typically done virtually. So hopefully at some point in the future, we can kind of do this in person and you guys can really get the full experience of what it's like. Oh, here's one. Okay, Jill, what's your thoughts on this? We have integrate mask into a stylish hat or cap.
Sure, protect me from the sun and COVID. Yeah.
Yeah, multi-use. So let's see. Ooh, the interviews. Andrew, if you wouldn't mind clicking. Yeah, one more slide. Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, so typically what we'll do, I'll just kind of explain this. Like I mentioned, unfortunately today, we're not gonna be able to go through it. But what you would do would be present your ideas and listen for feedback. You're kind of, are you on the right track? Is this a plausible solution in Jill's mind? Are there any extra benefits like that one? And you kind of keep going through this process and learning as you move through each of your ideas. So I am going to really run through these last couple of slides to make sure we end on time to keep you guys moving through the event today. Next step is prototyping. Let's see. Okay. Unfortunately, like I mentioned today, we're completely virtual, so we're not going to be able to do this, and kind of our interactive piece stops here. And this is really unfortunate because one of the mindsets we truly believe is an action towards bias. So instead of sitting around and talking about something, we much prefer you go out and build something, test it, some real feedback from real users. So as you're moving through this process, there are some things to remember. Some benefits are, starting simple. This might sound a little bit weird, but the best way of putting this is the further you make it through the development of a product, the more costly changes become. What we recommend is creating the simplest version of the product you're trying to create and test it with users. As you test and gather feedback, you slowly add fidelity. The process of starting simple and testing often also does another thing. It eliminates risk. So every time you have an interview or gain feedback from your users, you lower the risk. The final stage in our process is testing. And the main thing you want to make sure is that you're not this guy. So you really don't want to be a used car salesman. You're not trying to say, boy, have I listened to everything you've said and I've got a product that suits your needs exactly. Testing is just another opportunity for you to get more feedback so you can create higher res prototypes to suit users' needs. Another really important thing to do here is okay to be wrong. A lot of people are afraid of that, but this is a perfect time. So I know that was rushed, guys, but I hope you kind of get a general overview of the process that we kind of take with our clients. If you have any questions, I know we're kind of out of time, but I think Andrew and I can stay around for a little bit or jot down our information. Happy to answer any questions you guys might have. Also, Jill, thank you for volunteering.
Sure thing.
Without you, it probably wouldn't have worked at all.
Have a great one. Thanks.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so Andrew, you can see the chat now.
Yep.
Like
yeah, the digital side about this. Hey Scott. So the cool thing about this, it obviously we applied it to a physical product. It really works well across the board, whether you're designing a physical product, an app, a website, experience. So talk a little bit about how we use this from a digital perspective, because really most of the work we do is actually digital, whether it be websites or apps. So it definitely does apply.
Yeah, definitely. So what I think is interesting about digital in particular is I actually come from a physical product background. So I went for industrial design and kind of shifted into digital later in my career. What's interesting about digital is the amount of different user types. So today we went high level with one person, but typically in a digital space, you're having buyers, sellers, people internally with your company interacting with the product. So I would say that's probably a big thing to consider is the amount of users, as well as the people that are interacting with your product. Let's see. Sorry, guys, reading through some of these comments. But to sum that up, I mean, it's the same thing. You're focused on, developing a product specifically for users. That user research really drives a lot of the benefit. I think maybe another way to frame that would be, there are ways of interacting with people digitally. You can build a website, you can build an email campaign, you can build a social campaign, all of which will reach people. But the question is that the most effective manner to achieve your business goals? And that's kind of like what this process. Let's see, Jonathan.
And once that real quick, and I guess once that's defined as well. So once again, like Patrick said, it can be used to define, is it an app? Is it a website? Is it a social media campaign? Is it something else? An SMS campaign, whatever it may be. Once that has been defined, you can also use this process for that specific solution that you came up with to start testing and optimizing it over time as well. Once again, a lot of our websites, for example, we'll do wireframes, we'll do InVision mock-ups and prototypes, low fidelity prototypes that don't require any coding, so we can really quickly get them feedback without spending a bunch of time and money building something that not be the best solution. So hopefully that kind of answers your question. But Scott, definitely feel free to reach out to us. We can get into more details or more specific applies to digital if you'd like. Jenny, yes, if you shoot us an email, we can send you the deck and can always once you since you missed the beginning. Yeah, of course, Scott. And then Jonathan, what does your digital systems architecture for a typical project look like? Excuse me. Are you just referring to like what tools do we like to use? Or can you maybe expand on that question a little bit? I guess, well, if you're still here while you're typing that in, I guess we can be, okay, cool. Yeah. Patrick, do you want to kind of hit on some of the tools that we like to use and software to use
Yeah.
as we do design work?
Yeah, design work, like Andrew mentioned, and this is kind of predicated on where the client wants to go, how much time, how much money they want to spend on these projects. But
and the specific tool we're building.
Yes, correct. So I would say our typical process, like Andrew mentioned, we're conducting interviews, we're collecting feedback. There's a step beyond that, which is actually analyzing that feedback and actually turning all that information into goals. Stuff we've used for that, we've done in the past, typically in-person interviews. Today, obviously, we're going more social or virtual. So we're doing Zoom, Hangouts, things like that. We collect pretty simply in Google Sheets. Once we kind of have that baseline and it's been validated by the company that is in line with the business goals they're trying to achieve, and we actually go into building products, we do things a little bit differently. At times we'll do wireframes. So we'll do those in Sketch or Adobe XD. From experience, we found it's more valuable to start there at times, but other times more valuable to almost jump into a low fidelity, something that looks real. Sometimes you run into the issue with wireframes that people don't actually understand what it is you're trying to show them. So in that case, we'll build a couple of UI mockups, once again in Sketch or Adobe XD, and usually drop those into InVision. Just found it's pretty easy to share through that, gather feedback. Once we have the feedback from there, we really start diving into the nitty-gritty. So it's building out a full-on wireframe, making sure content hierarchy, all the information is placed in the correct spots. Developing brand guidelines, content layouts, stuff like that. We shift from there into UI, which comes, all the pretty stuff. We're applying the brand, we're selecting photos, we're doing typography, colors, stuff like that. And then, it depends. Like we've worked for development teams, we've worked internally with development teams, but a tool we found very helpful for translating our designs and vision is Zeppelin. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but it's a tool which essentially allows you to document as well as a place for developers to pull assets from. And then comes the management and interaction with developers, which is always fun. Ensuring that we're going through testing, making sure the experience is exactly how we originally designed it, A/B testing, various things like that. I know that was a long-winded answer, but I hope I answered. Andrew, I don't know if there's anything else that I may have left out there. But.
I think that was good. But yeah, Jonathan, I think there's at each step of the process, there's a kind of various set of tools that make sense on a per project basis. So yeah, like Patrick said, there's kind of like that research phase where there's certain tools and softwares and workloads that we're using. Then when we get into the actual prototyping and building phase, we have certain, and then there's the of the product or service, and want to be collecting feedback because it doesn't just end at launching it. So we want to make sure that the masses are, actually finding it to be intuitive and useful, and there's not certain problem areas that need to be adjusted and fixed. But yeah, we can also once again kind of dive deeper. If you are interested, you can reach out to us and we can kind of share some of the other specifics, the tools that we use and how we use them, certain processes or certain periods of time throughout the process. Cool. Well, thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. And like we said, Andrew and Patrick, we're happy to answer any other questions down the road.